Hi, this is the episode number 2 of our new show. Can I call this a podcast? Presented by me, the most famous voice on the internet. Today we are going to talk with this legend, Jay Bentley, the bass player from Bad Religion.
Hi, I'm Jay Bentley from Bad Religion, and me first in the Gimme Gimmes.
What was the most important thing you learned through music?
Probably, to be honest, about what you're doing performance-wise. I think that once you've done your creation part, where you've written this music and then you're going to take it out and play it in front of people, I think that that's the most important thing that we all learned, is that when you present it, you're as honest about it as possible. And I find that with some of the acts that I've played with, that takes a little bit of effort. And I found that with Bad Religion, it takes no effort, because I sincerely believe what we're saying. And I think that helps in Bad Religion's case, that it's, I don't want to say it's a message, because it's not. It's an important idea that we're trying to share and have communication with people. And I think that honesty, that earnest desire for some solution is what drives Bad Religion.
What punk rock means to you?
Just get fucked. Just get fucked right out to space. I don't care about what you do or what you say. I don't care. I'm going to look for my own answers. And if I find people that have found the answers I've found, then that makes us a community. But it really meant being an individual. Even though there was a lot of jokes about being like, how can you say you're an individual when you're with 10,000 other kids with mohawks all screaming you're an individual? And I get that. But there were people within that circle who wanted something more than just fighting, fucking, drinking, looking for, life's mysterious answers. And I think when you're 15, 16, 17, and you are fortunate to find an alternative lifestyle that on the fringes of it is filled with incredibly intelligent people, and you get to tap into that. What punk rock has meant to me is it is my education. It was my high school. It was my university. It is still a learning experience every day that I wake up.
What do you think about the Punk in DRUBLIC festival?
Just like everything else that people like Mike or us or other sort of creative people, they're always coming up with reasons to do what you do. I've spent my life in and around musicians in Hollywood who 90% of the time they were waiting for someone to do something for them. Fuck them. Do it for yourself. That's what this is. This is just like, I'm tired. I want to go have a beer party. Whatever. Just, make a fucking phone call and all of a sudden you've got a tour happening with your friends. So, okay. It's not hard. It really isn't hard. Just fucking make a phone call.
What is it like for you to play the entire Suffer album after 30 years?
I like playing it. I like playing the Suffer album in its entirety for just a lot of reasons. I think that celebrating 30 years of an album is an odd thing to do, but I like that record a lot, and I think that it's important to us as a band. It's sort of it was a time when Bad Religion didn't exist, and suddenly it existed, and it existed through that album Suffer. So in learning it and relearning it, and this is an important thing, when Jamie came into the band and we kind of sat down and said, we've spent the last 2 decades sort of playing in a certain way that maybe we shouldn't be playing anymore, and maybe we should go back and listen to the records and, you know, honor the songs the way they were written, the way they were recorded, the way we did them, and we did that, and it was good for me too, because it was sort of like relearning the way I played when I was 23 years old. And so playing it now is, I don't know if it's interesting for people to watch us play it. I hope that it is, but it's just as interesting to me to be sort of relearning it and playing it in front of people going like, I remember playing these songs in 1988 for people who had never heard Suffer and watching their reaction going like, I don't know how you do what you do, and I don't know how this is happening. It's I hate using the word magic, but this was one of the first times for me being in a band, something was happening with the guys that I couldn't explain to other people. I said, something happens when we plug in our guitars and start playing. Something happens to me inside. And Suffer was the beginning of that. And so playing it in its entirety is just, it's just sort of this wicked ballet that plays in my head. And, you know, watching people sing along to songs like Index Fossil, that tells me that other people maybe feel that way too.
What was the scene like at the time?
In 1988, there was no scene. It was non-existent. Everybody had left. There were no real venues to play anymore. Metal sort of took over for most punk rock bands. I think that a lot of the clubs in Hollywood had just said no more punk rock bands at all, so the best thing to do was to grow your hair out and put a lead in the middle of your song and just say we're speed metal. It made sense. There certainly wasn't anything like what we were about to come out doing, and maybe that was good for us because we didn't have any competition. So we just we made that record, and we were playing shows, but there were a couple hundred people in LA, 8 people in Texas, 20 people in Boston at TT the Bears. So it wasn't that it was a big deal back then. It took time for people to say like, where did this all sort of start? Just for Bad Religion, where did this all sort of start? And yeah, you can go back to 1980 and go, they had the EP and they had How Could Love Any Worse album, but I think really the way that I would look at Bad Religion as it stands right now, that band started in 1988 with Suffer.
What happened after Suffer?
More bands started to pop up and more things started to happen. It was, I don't want to say it was a difficult time, because I don't think any of us really cared that much about much. We weren't interested in being big. I think it was just a matter of having fun and doing what we really wanted to. Because I remember when we were making these records, we would just be laughing in the studio, thinking like, this is insane that we're doing this. We're making records that we like. And that was always the goal, was to make something that I just wanted to make a record that I want to listen to. I didn't care about anybody else.
Do you think Suffer created the term melodic punk or melodic hardcore?
I don't ever want to take credit for anything like that. I don't think Suffer invented or created much. Melodic hardcore, maybe that's, you can say that term was created, but it, we certainly didn't invent that style.
What would you call it then?
If you tell me about melodic hardcore, I think of different bands. I don't think of us as melodic hardcore, even though I know that was sort of a moniker given to us. But that's, I'm probably able to remove myself a lot from that and think like, I feel that we're closer to like an MC5 rock and roll band than I do to Millencolin. this is where I have to look at us as a band and how I feel what we're doing. I think that melodic hardcore, probably through no fault of its own, got sort of driven into the ground by as many bands as you can have that were just sort of like, it wasn't really hardcore. You know, it was just sort of pop. Whether that was correct or not, it was just, that's sort of how my feeling was. It's like, I don't think this is hardcore, and I don't think we're hardcore. I thought New York was hardcore. You know, those fucking bands, Agnostic Front was fucking hardcore, and we were not that at all. So, you know, sometimes I think that names get given to bands because journalists have to come up with some description to put in their review. I don't know if it necessarily fits the band or not.
What you think about punk rock fans?
I'll tell you a story. When I was growing up in high school, there was 2 punk rockers at my school. One was me and one was Greg Graffin. And I got my ass kicked every day by a guy wearing a Rush shirt. And if you fast forward about 20 years, that same guy that was kicking my ass wearing a Rush shirt would be wearing a Nirvana shirt. And I don't know what I think about that. So when you ask me what do I think about these people, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who anybody is anymore. I don't know if you can just wear a tag. I don't think you get to wear a name tag that says, hi, I'm cool, I'm a punk rocker, because that doesn't necessarily mean you're cool. You could be one of those guys that just goes to a concert to kick the shit out of people in the pit. That doesn't make you cool. So I'm looking beyond music. I'm looking beyond civilization, really, because I think that word, civilized, is just kind of done. I think people are just becoming super shitty because there's so many people that it's a selfish world now. And I'm hopeful that somewhere out there is someone with a message that can just somehow or another get that to everybody, that we don't need to live like this. That would be cool. And I'm willing to bet that it's more likely that they're out there than somewhere else. That's my hope.
Thank you, Jay Bentley. I really enjoyed our conversation. Do you want to hang out more in a bar near here?
I think I gotta go to work.
Yeah. Can I call this a podcast? Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, or comment. Your engagement is important to us. See you next time.